Before starting, I highly recommend you to watch this video on the device you use for playing. You'll understand why later. First, we need to know what is FOV. In your in-game settings, you have two FOV settings. The first one being your camera field of view, and the second one being how close do you see your weapon. For the first FOV setting, having a low value means that you'll have a tightened field of view. Having a high value means that you'll have a wider field of view, and we'll talk about the side effects of both high and low FOV value later. For the second FOV setting, having a low value will make you feel that your weapon is super close to you, and when it is super close, it also takes a lot of space on your screen and hides a huge part of the right side of your screen. Having a high value will show your weapon as if it was farther, so it'll be smaller and it'll take less screen real estate. Before changing anything, you might think, do I need to adjust my sensitivity after changing my FOV? Good question. You probably know that FOV doesn't change how wide your ADS FOV is, it only changes your camera FOV, and after some quick testing at 51 and 90 FOV, with the same sense you'll do the same rotation in degrees, so no, you don't necessarily have to change your sensitivity. But it usually happens that people adjust their sensitivity slightly after changing their FOV, but this isn't a drastic change and it won't destroy the muscle memory that you built. We're gonna quickly talk about the second FOV setting. It's just an aesthetic thing, and the best way to set it up with the least inconvenience is to put it to the maximum, which is 100, simply because your weapon will be small and it'll obstruct your view as little as possible. Now for the camera FOV, well, it really depends on how you usually play, but don't worry, we're gonna cover everything. Before talking about what's the best setting, we need to explain one thing. When you have a high FOV value, yes, your field of view is wider, but your enemies also look smaller. Watch this. Now you might think that it isn't a big deal, but watch this. On the first screenshot, the enemy is really hard to see. On the second one, the enemy is clearly visible. With that, you'll understand why FOV values may vary for different playstyles. Another thing, depending on your screen size, you won't have the same FOV as someone else for the same playstyle, and if you have a bigger screen than 6.5 inches, having less than 75 FOV is just useless since enemies will be big enough for you to see them. But having an FOV lower than 60 will put you in a big disadvantage compared to everyone else. So apart from that, if you have a tiny screen, like smaller than 5.5 inches, never go under than 60 FOV. For those who are playing passive, what we can also call anchor roll, having a high FOV value isn't really useful and effective. It might even put you in a disadvantage if you can't spot enemies at long range, and as I said earlier, having less than 60 will cause you to miss some information, so I recommend you to put an FOV value between 60 and 70. For those who are playing flex weapons like the Peacekeeper, or if you're playing multiple playstyles and it just depends on the map or your mood, then you have to be versatile, so having too low of an FOV value can put you in a disadvantage if you're rushing, and having too high of an FOV value will put you in a disadvantage if you're playing passive. Therefore, using an FOV value of between 70 and 80 is the best compromise. Now, moving over to aggressive players, here we're talking about the absolute rusher, those who play shotgun and highly aggressive SMGs like the MAC-10. Compared to the two types of player we mentioned earlier, movements are something that you need to do and that you need to deal with, and having a low FOV against people that move a lot is just hell. Since you won't have to spot enemies at long range, having a high FOV won't put you in a disadvantage as much as a passive player, so for you, the best FOV is between 80 and 90. Lastly, we're gonna make a little stop on snipers. Sniping is really different from the rest of the playstyles, and whatever type of sniper that you are, you have to be able to see everywhere. Plus, you have to be able to do quick movements and to counter those. Even if at first the best option seems to be an FOV of around 70 to 75, it's clearly not the best choice. So as for the aggressive player, the best setting is between 80 and 90.
Hey, but you said that for passive weapons, we need a low FOV. Aren't snipers meant for playing passive?
Yes, you're right. But if you watched the last video about snipers, you already know when to pre-aim and hard scope, and since you have a scope on your sniper, when you're using a lower FOV, you should be able to spot everyone in your field of view, but you wouldn't have seen this target even with 51 FOV. If you have a wide FOV, I know most of the time you'll be playing aggressively, and you can learn more of that in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.